Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we're going to be talking about our weekly forecast from January 19th until January 26th. Now, before we get started with this video, though, I would ask that you do subscribe if you do like weather-related content, and also make sure to share this video with your friends and family if they live in the impacted regions. Let's get right into things. So first things first, we like to take a look, if you're new to this series, at our recent week's forecast here and then compare it to what actually happened. So you can see we were calling for more warmer than normal conditions there in the southeastern United States, as well as portions of the south central United States like Texas, Oklahoma, especially in those orange shades and red shades is where we were calling for very warm conditions. And then in our blues there, you can see mostly for the northwestern United States and then some of the northern Rockies like Montana and then some of the upper Midwest. So we see the two Dakotas there, very far northern, South Dakota, and then North Dakota pretty far below normal there. So now let's switch to what actually happened here, and I think we did a really, really good job. I think the cold digged down a little bit into Nebraska and Iowa, a little bit more than what we were expecting, but overall, I think it's a very, very good forecast. This actually might be one of our bests. One other inaccuracy I'm seeing here comparing the two is Nevada, Idaho, and Utah I was calling to be below normal, and it looks like they were a little bit above normal there. But outside of that, it looks good. Let me know what you guys thought of this, that you just saw it side by side. Let me know what you thought and how that weekly forecast did. All right, now we're about to get into this week's precipitation forecast, which is going to be exciting because we're going to be able to take a look at where we're expecting some pretty stormy conditions and then where it might be a little bit more dry and quiet this week. Alright, so first things first, we have an area of above average precipitation here there for the northwestern United States, and it's been this way for a while now. Oregon, Washington, especially along the coast there, portions of Idaho, very far northern Idaho, and northwestern Montana there, we have some slightly above normal precipitation. In this first shade, it's not really too noticeable. It might be in some areas more than others, but for the most part, not too noticeable, but on paper, definitely will be above average precipitation. Let's go ahead and add that second layer for that region there, and you can see in the very far northwestern regions of Oregon and as well as the very western regions of Washington, we have moderately above average precipitation, and we're going to have a pretty stormy week ahead for a lot of these regions, so we'll get into that in the special note segment of the video, which is towards the end. But yeah, so now we have a second area of above average precipitation here, there in Wisconsin, Illinois, Ohio, Indiana, and then back down through areas like Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, Oklahoma, Arkansas, into some of the deep south, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, and Georgia there. And again, it's going to be slightly above normal precipitation, so maybe not too noticeable, but definitely on paper, it will be above average. Now, we're about to start talking about where we could expect some below average precipitation regions to set up, which is also going to be interesting to take a look at, because it's going to be more areas that we could expect a more quiet week. Alright, so as you can see, our first area of below average precipitation is going to be mostly for the southwestern United States and then up through into the Rockies and some of the upper Midwest, so areas like California, Nevada, a little bit of the Four Corner states, Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and then upwards into Wyoming, Montana, Idaho, and a little bit of Nebraska. And then the two Dakotas there is going to be mostly where we have some below average precipitation. Again, on this first shade, though, it won't be too noticeable. We do have a second shade here in California and Nevada, and this is where it's going to be more moderately below average. Probably not expecting too much precipitation whatsoever here there in the mountains of California. So that's why we have that moderate shade of below average precipitation for those regions. It's probably going to be quite the quiet week. I expect one storm there, I think, towards the earlier portion of the week, maybe for the northern portions of that region, but not really much whatsoever. We do expect a lot on average of precipitation for this region, so it doesn't necessarily mean you will get none whatsoever. We do have a second area of below average precipitation there for the eastern seaboard, as well as up there in New England and upstate New York. All of these regions are expected to be slightly below normal. Again, on paper, maybe won't notice it. Some areas more than others in there for sure. We do have a third area of below average precipitation as well. The Appalachian Mountains don't seem to get quite as much, but then as we head a little bit west of you, we have a sliver of below average precipitation that I'm kind of eyeballing there. It's going to be from a little bit of Louisiana up through portions of Mississippi, Arkansas, through Tennessee, Kentucky, very far western Virginia, and then through the middle portions of West Virginia. Again, a little sliver of below average precipitation there, but still only going to be slightly below normal, so you might not notice it too much, where you probably will have some precipitation for that region during the week. Now we're about to get into your temperature forecast. We're going to see where we're going to have some below normal temperatures and then areas where we might have some above normal temperatures as well. All right, so we're starting out with our first region, and I think this might be our only region of below average temperatures here, but this one's going to extend from portions of Minnesota, South Dakota, in through Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Illinois, Arkansas, Louisiana, and then through some of the southeast states like Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, mid-Atlantic states like North Carolina, Virginia, Maryland, a little bit of southern Pennsylvania there, New Jersey, Delaware, as well as D.C., portions of West Virginia, and a little bit of Kentucky and Tennessee there as well as very far southern Indiana there. But this is only going to be our first shade. You might not notice it too much within these regions, but overall on paper, it's going to be below normal. I think especially earlier in the week, it's going to be far below normal for these regions, and it's going to be warming up throughout the week, and it's going to average out being just slightly below normal temperatures for these regions. We do have a second shade here, though, however, and this is going to be where we're expecting moderately below average temperatures, and I think it's going to last a little bit longer for these regions and be a little bit colder as well. There for portions of South Dakota, through Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, a little bit of Missouri there, and Illinois as well. This is an area where you will probably notice that it's actually quite cold this week, and it's going to be pretty far below normal temperatures earlier in the week, warming up a little bit towards the end, but still I think it's going to be ending up pretty far below average temperatures overall. Now we have a very big swath of above average temperatures, mostly for the western United States, as well as into some of the central United States there, like Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska. We see the Four Corner states there, the Rockies, the Northwest, and then some portions of the upper Midwest and portions of the Midwest, like Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, then down through the Great Lakes, like Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and upstate New York as well. This is going to be slightly above normal temperatures. You won't notice it too much, like I've stated before. Some areas more than others, but not really too much. We do have an area of moderately above average temperatures here. One for Montana, Wyoming, and South Dakota there. Again, going to be pretty noticeable in this area that we have some pretty mild temperatures. And then we have a second area of moderately above average temperatures as well, and this is going to be for portions of Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan as well. And this does not mean that you can't get snow. I'm actually expecting snow in both of these two moderately above average temperature regions here, so this definitely does not mean you can't get snow. It just means on average, comparatively to your normal, it's going to be a little bit warmer than what it typically would be. In these areas, the normal temperature is so low that it's still going to be freezing, even if you're far above average temperatures anyway. Now we're about to get into our special note segment of the video, which is going to be very exciting. We're going to be able to take a pinpoint look at some of these upcoming storms we're expecting for the coming week for the United States. Very, very exciting stuff here. All right, so first things first, we're looking at our first special note, and this is going to be for the entire week. We're going to expect a few winter storms for these regions. Obviously, some lower elevation areas might not get too much snow, but for the most part, a lot of these areas are high elevation, and they will be getting snowstorms and rain in the lower valleys in some areas. But portions of California, again, I mentioned that the very northern regions there might get some precipitation, even though you're expecting below average precipitation. And then we see portions of Oregon, Washington, through the Rockies, so Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and then northern New Mexico there. A lot of these mountainous regions, but especially I think for Washington and Oregon and Idaho, you're going to get the most of this. But we're having another week for you guys of some pretty potent winter storms, and a few of them at that. We had a couple weeks before this one where we had those types of conditions, and that looks to continue, even though we're expected to have above normal temperatures. That will not hinder some of the winter storms from moving on shore here and bringing snow to the higher elevation regions. It's, so cold there that even when it's above average, we do expect to see the potential for some snow. Let's move on to special note number 2 here, and this is our final one. We see from the 23rd through the 26th, we're expecting the potential for a winter storm to move. Well, it's going to start out there for the Dakotas, South Dakota especially, and then move down through Nebraska, Kansas, Missouri, Iowa, and then back up through portions of the Great Lakes like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin. And this could be further north or further south. This is at the very tail end of the week. We're expecting this particularly for the weekend, so this is a little bit far out, but we are eyeballing the chance for at least a storm to be in the area and impacting some regions. And I'm seeing the chance on some models for it to come back down for the northeastern United States. This is a very typical storm track that we've seen throughout the winter, so this is a very believable outcome for me. As we get this deep into the winter, we get a really good idea of what happens typically. So I do expect the chance for a winter storm there for New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, Connecticut, and Rhode Island. Once again, like we've seen a couple times, some minor winter storms or moderate winter storms. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Again, be sure to share it with your friends and family, and I'll see you guys in the next video.